Hello folks, Brandon Hansen here with Norseman Trades. I am here at Freewarden Farm today to install a line of high tensile wire fence on a wood brace on one side, wood corner brace on one side, and a timeless brace down on the other side. So we're installing on timeless fence posts, timeless brace on one side, wood corner posts, wood corner brace on the other side. I thought I'd show you just how easy it is to install, whether you're starting from a wood brace or timeless braces. We've already got everything installed, so I'll go over there and talk to you a little bit about it before we get installing the wire. But I'm going to show you how to start, how to terminate, how to tie off, how to tension, and everything in between. So let's get started. We'll take a look at the wood fence posts first. This is a very simple H-brace. I'm not going to talk to you a whole lot about how we install them and everything. They're fairly simple and there's a lot of tutorials online out there. Today we're going to start with installed braces. We're going to start our wire on one end, moving down the fence to the other end. So because this is the pasture and this is going to be primarily the outside of the pasture, we're actually going to install the fence from this side right here. The first thing we want to do is mark where our wire is going to go. So I've got my fancy little cheat stick here, and this was just as simple as going to my T-post, figuring out where I want my wire, or you can just measure on your stick. I want it 6 inches up, 9 inches up, 12, 12, and if I did a fifth line, it'd be 12. But I'm only going to do 4. This is our, this is not a perimeter wire, so I'm not going to do a 5-wire fence line. So let's go ahead and mark here. That's going to be nearly invisible to anybody but me who's looking for it. Start our wire, we want to create a clean insulated start for it. So what we're going to do is make a loop of wire, put our insulator on it, put a crimp on one end, take it over to our post with our crimpers, get ready to wrap it around, put that crimp on the other end, tighten it down. By the way, the cutters I'm using are Knipex. They are awesome. They're really great. They're strong and they last a long time, but very sharp, very easy to use. If you're going to be cutting a lot of wire, Knipex are the way to go. They are expensive, but they're expensive for a reason. They're made in Germany and they are just really high quality. Link in the description. Now that we have our proper lengths cut, I'm going to go ahead and start installing these. We'll do one, I'll do the rest off camera, and we'll meet back up after we get done with this. I'm using an extra large crimp, or an extra long crimp, if you would. And the idea behind this is I don't have to use 2 or 3 crimps when you use an extra large one. So then we're just gonna go down the line. Now some people say start from the center, say start from one side, you know, pick one and do it that way. I'm using a Beckert staple here. These have little barbs on them, and when you nail them in, they are shaped in such a way that the two tines, the two sides of your staple, actually bend out and away so that it makes it that much stronger of a stick. This is my second favorite tool. These are Crescent brand lineman pliers, and they're really great. And in a pinch, you can cut with them. However, I will say that my cutters here are weakening and getting chipped and notched and stuff. So that's why I got the Knipex cutters for this, because doing enough that I'm cracking these. All right, and there we have our first insulator. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of these. Get these all tacked down and ready to go, and we'll pick it back up from there. We now have all 4 of our insulator starts ready to go, ready to get wired up with our actual fence wire. So the only thing that we have left to do now is nail in all of our post insulators. So we're simply going to measure up and nail each one of those in at the appropriate height. So I'm gonna go and do the other 3 of these. Then we're gonna actually get down to running that fence wire. I've begun to tie our wires off to the start point. One little trick that I'm gonna share with you that's really important is to put 1 or maybe even 2 of these crimps right on the starting wire. So what's that gonna do for us? Well, when we need to make jumper cables between our lines, or on this corner here where we need to jump over to the other side here, going that way. Now we've got crimps already set up there ready to go. That is a little trick that I learned the first time I started installing fence, and I didn't do anything like this. That's gonna help you a lot. Crimps are cheap, and the alternatives, when you don't have a crimp on there, can be very expensive. So throw a couple crimps on there. If you never use them, guess what? Nobody's gonna notice that they're there. But if they do find that they need them, they're there, and they're gonna be really glad that they're there. Pull enough through to get around this insulator, like so. And we're gonna tighten it down, just squeeze it and bend it a little bit around there so it's not gonna come off. Now, with our loose end here, we go over and under. So we go over and then under and back up to create our first sort of knot here. Now I'm going to try to pull this down good and tight. We want about that much space there, and I'm going to just give it a good pull, and then we're going to go back under. Okay, so not over, so we're not going to go over and continue, we're going to go back under. And now we're going to reverse the direction like so. Then the trick to this is leave about 6 to 8 inches there, create yourself a handle. There you've got your handle, just bend that over. Now you're going to, with tension pulling against this wire, begin to wrap this around in nice, even, successive loops. And you don't need that many because you've got a knot here. If you don't have this knot, you're gonna need about maybe 5 or 6 of them. If you have the knot, then you're only gonna really need 3. But you know what? You can do 3, 4, as many as you like. Now once you get to this point, 1, 2, 3, 4 full wraps, all you're gonna do is take, perpendicularly bend the wire back on itself like so, and it breaks right off. So there you have it. Nice, clean break where it's not going to catch on anything, it's not a jagged edge sticking out there, and you didn't have to pull this out and cut it. So it saves on your cutters, and it saves time. And we're gonna twist that just a little bit more to get it to be straight. And there we go. Now, if I had a concern that this was gonna touch this, I'd put an insulator on there, but let's just give this a nice, good pull and see that we've got a couple inches there. So we don't have to worry about putting an insulator there. I'm not gonna do it anyway. You can always add something on later. It's pretty easy. Take a piece of garden hose, slice it lengthwise, stick it over your wire, and then take zip ties, tighten it down so that it stays in place. Super simple, easy, cheap. Garden hose insulators can always be added on later if you're having any sort of problem with it arcing. It's not gonna be strong enough to arc that far away. But any sort of problem where it begins to touch there, just throw a garden hose on there, tighten it down. So I'm going to show you how to load the spinning jenny with a fresh roll of wire. So what I like to do is loosen all of these up. It just makes it a lot faster to go ahead and loosen all of them. Put them all to the center. And then we'll load it up. Then we want to about center it. And you just want to make sure that your ties are all free of being under this. simply because it makes it easier to access them. And then we will just go around and tighten all of these down. All right, and there we go. A couple of last things to show you when mounting your spinning Jenny with the wire is take the tail end of your wire before you finish cutting all of the straps or restraints and just work it into that hole there. That's gonna save you a big hassle so that doesn't go flying out and hit you or something. Secondly, this is how I have figured out how to get these straps up since they are so difficult. I can't get my Knipex around them. I can't find a good, decent tool to cut these. It does appear that if you take up pliers and you apply pressure right here, you should be able to pull this out and break it, but it's very difficult. So the next best solution I've got is you take your carpenter's hammer, you take a mallet, and you just work that between the wire and that restraint. So you get a little room in there, then you can work your Knipex in there. Pulling back on the hammer, just begin to clip. As this comes off though, I want to show you one more thing. You gotta be watching. This is going to expand really quickly. And it's gonna show you why you want to have this spinning Jenny. Boom. So there we have it, folks. See how that came up like that? If you just start cutting that, this thing will go all over the place. This is not a negotiable item when it comes to this high tensile wire in these large rolls. So get yourself a good spinning Jenny too. The ones sold by Timeless they're excellent. You see a lot of cheap ones out there that you can buy at big box farm stores. Don't bother, don't waste your money on them. These are gonna last. They're well made, they're well constructed, and they're going to serve you well, and you're not gonna be disappointed that you bought them. So when you're ready to pull your wire out, if you've got to adjust the tension to get it to come a little easier, but also stop when you stop, go ahead and do that. That's that center bolt on the spinning Jenny. But you're just gonna walk your wire out and you're gonna run it through your Timeless fence. So come along with me, I'm gonna show you just how easy it is to run it through your Timeless. There's no insulator. There's no, you don't have to use a wire. You can use a wire guide to hold it in place. But you don't have to if you do it just like this. First of all, let me show you on a wood post. And this would be similar on a T-post. Every time you come up to the post, you're going to have to set the wire in place and then take this little pin and push it down in there. So not a big deal, but you got to do that with every post. It's going to get old really fast. So we're going to move up to the Timeless post next, and you're going to see just how easy it is. So here we are coming up to our Timeless post. We just count up 1, 2, 3, 4, run it through. That's it. And keep on walking. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes if it's pulling really hard and I'm way down on the line, 1, 2, 3, 4, what I'll do to make it a little easier so I'm not letting the wire slip out of my hand is I'll just make a little handle, little temporary handle, a bend at a right angle, and then I've got my nice little handle to run through here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Still runs through almost as easily, but then it just makes it a little easier to pull. This is actually where we're going to put our tensioners, right here between one brace and the other brace, about the halfway point. You want to tension equally from both sides, so that means you've got to be tensioning halfway through your fence, not from one side or the other, but right in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4. And on we go. Every hole in the Timeless post is drilled 3 inches apart. The first one is drilled about 6 inches up from the point where you're supposed to pound it into the ground at. All right, so once we make it up to our brace, timeless braces are very nice. They are the insulator, so I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do any prep work with them. They've got holes pre-drilled in them. We just pull the wire through, and then all we gotta do is tie it off or do some other termination technique. So I'm gonna show you a couple different termination techniques. First of all, I'm gonna show you how to tie it off down here. So we're just going to tie it off by wrapping it around. You're gonna go up and over this wire, then under. And tighten it down. Pull it good. I've got this slack here, so what I want to do is pull my wire through here like so. At this point, I'm not worried about getting a lot of tension on the fence line. I'm just trying to get this to be a nice tight knot so that it's easy for me to get this tightened down on the post. We'll tension the fence later, so don't worry about that right now. Then we are going to do this one in the reverse of what we did down there. Well, it's looking like the reverse. It's actually the same exact direction, but just because of which side I'm on and how this is going. Now we start our wrap. And it's a little tricky when you're dealing with this tensioning wire on the brace itself, but you can work around it. It's a little easier if it's loose, which is why it is loose right now. It's not been tightened down because, like I said, it's easier to work with them when they're loose. So we have our knot, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, just about 5 there, so that's plenty good. Now we're just gonna twist it back on itself. All right, cut the excess off. Now use the little bit of the handle that we've got here to twist it back on itself, break it right off. With our other 3 lines, I'm gonna show you a different termination method, but I've gotta run one more line, so I'll meet you right back up here to show you how to do that in just a second. So I promised you a really easy way to terminate your lines at the end. And I'm going to show you how to do it with the Gripple. The Gripple is a really cool little piece of equipment that you can add to your fencing. I'll show you how to do it so that you can use it as a tensioner, but in this case we're using it to terminate the end of our wire line. So what I've done here is I've just added a loop so that I can run a spring or a rope or a wire fence right across here over to these other loops that I've created on this side. You can just tie a loop in there if you want, but this Gripple makes it so that you can adjust it, you can take it out, you can do other things. It's a semi-permanent fixture for your fence and a semi-permanent tensioner for your fence as well. So, first off, we're going to take our Gripple, we're going to slide it right on the end of our wire. We're going to slide it into the large hole here. So there's 2 holes, one with blue plastic and one with no plastic. We're going to slide it into the one with no plastic. And as it goes in, it works its way past a one-way stop that's in the mechanism. So what we want to do then is bend this over to create our loop, and we'll actually grab this with our pliers. And that's going to line it up so that we can run our wire back in there. However, this doesn't move back unless we use the key. So let's use our unlock key there, take the tension off, and then with one hand holding the key and the other guiding the wire through. It's easier said than done, but once you get it on there, this is pretty handy. There we go. short piece of wire sticking out the other way. That just gets seated right in your post, and you are ready to go. Bend our wire over. Take our lock key here. Take the pressure off, slide the key in, and guide the wire through. And there we go. Really simple way to terminate your wires, and then you've got a setup ready to go for a gate. So I'm going to show you how to tension your fence and tie off your wires using the Gripple tensioner, along with these Gripple twisties or twisters. I can't remember what they're called, but these little gray things. First, going to cut our wire about in the middle. Then we're going to take our Gripple, put it on one. By the way, in case you're wondering, for 12.5 gauge wire, you want to use the medium Gripple. They do make different sizes. So keep that in mind. If you're running 12.5 high tensile, you want to use the medium Gripple. We're just going to put both of our wires in there, and then we're going to work it on so that it's about in the middle. We are in the middle of our run of the fence line here, and that is on purpose. We're going to hand tighten it first. We're going to take our Gripple tensioner tool. All right, so we put our Gripple tool on there just like that, and then we're going to simply pushing against the Gripple, tension it down until it feels about right. Now, what we want to be able to do is put a little tension on it. It's going to have some give, but then it's going to go right back to straight. And if we look down our fence line, we're going to see that it doesn't have any sag in it. Now, this is going to loosen and sag just a little bit, but then it should tighten back up. That's the way high tensile generally works. So I'm going to give myself about 12 inches here, and I'm going to cut these off. That way, if I ever have to come back and work on these, I've got enough hanging off here so that I can take it off, put it back on. There's a little hole in the twister here. I'm just going to slide the excess wire in there, and that's going to keep it nice and neat and tidy in line with the rest of my wire. There we go. Not too much tension, just so it gets nice and straight, no more slack left in it. And then we'll have to come back out here in a couple of weeks and check the tension on this again, because it's gonna loosen up, then it's gonna tighten back up again, and then it may have a little bit of slack. We'll have to see where we're sitting there. But this looks good to me. I'm gonna finish up the rest of these. That's it. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was educational. I hope that you got something out of that. And if you have any questions, reach out to us, norsemantrays.com. Find our contact information there, and we'd be happy to help you out with the timeless, the product itself, whether it's the posts, the end braces, your corner posts, your corner braces, and any of the additional materials like your wire. Or if it comes to insulation, you go, that looks like some great product, but I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want to touch it. I just want it to appear in my pasture. We'd be happy to help you out with that in north central Iowa as well. Give us a ring, see what we can do for you.